you're a Monster Hunter veteran. You've been playing since what? The first game came out?
I've been playing since Freedom Unite, so
Which, for me, as a new player, is
second generation. I've been playing since second generation.
okay. And what would you say your... Okay, let's start off with this. How did you feel about Zoshia?
I love the concept of Zoshia.
Yeah.
I think he's a very interesting creature and what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be this thing that's a counterbalance to like a Fatalis.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like, I don't know, somewhere along the lines it got corrupted somehow and became the very thing that they didn't want it to be. And its armor sets and everything alludes to that. I mean, when it goes from its pretty white state to this amalgamation of tentacles and horns.
Just looks like a cluster, like a...
Yeah, it looks like it's becoming the very thing they didn't want it to be. Another Fatalis or a clone of it.
Okay, so you like the concept of it itself, but I mean, how did you feel about like fighting it though? Do you think it's like a good high rank fight? Do you feel like you kind of got cheesed in the fight? How do you feel?
I would say it's a bit of both. It is very cheesy in certain ways with how it just kind of does spam moves back to back.
The fireball is like...
The fireball
is
into
kinda
the
crazy.
lightning, into its slam or whatever.
He's got combos.
But they're kind of cheesy in a sense. Like, I was kind of hoping for throwing maybe a couple new moves into it.
Yeah.
And then kind of mixing up the monotony of the thing. And didn't really see that. Hoping to see a lot of that in Master Rank. A lot of people are also complaining about how all the weapons are based off of its angel motif.
Oh, you're right.
And none of them are in that kind of like demon distorted form.
Maybe.
So it would be interesting to see those as
Master rank rewards.
Master Rank rewards.
Yeah.
Like maybe when it goes into a certain form or aspects of the weapon look corrupted in that sense.
Surprised we didn't get like a second tree kind of for like Guardian Arcveld and Arcveld.
Yeah.
Got that, but we didn't get like the second tree for it's kind of odd.
Very.
I do have to say with the Zoshia fight, I know a lot of people were complaining that other players didn't know what to do with that fire attack. You know, where he puts all the rocks everywhere.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples, I mean, it's really not that hard of a gimmick once you learn it. You know, it's just paying attention. And Monster Hunter has always been a very attention-driven game. Positioning has always been very important, which I feel like in this game it honestly isn't as much as it was. So, I mean, yeah, if you compare that to Alatrion's Escalon Judgment, I would say that's a very small, you just need to get good in that aspect. Pay attention to what he's doing. He literally has a giant cue of what he's about to do.
Most people just, like, I know the first time he did it, I just got on my secret and ran to the edge, and I ended up living.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard of a thing to get around. I mean...
So, I noticed a lot of comparisons from fighting Xeno'jiiva in World. Now, it may be, like, a bit petty, but I feel like with the fireball spam, I feel like Xeno'jiiva kind of did something similar, except he would like walk you down and it would be like lasers, like a short burst of like lasers he would just keep firing at you. And of course, Xeno'jiiva did some different things, but a lot of it was very similar too. Like, okay, Zoshia had the thing where he like takes his hands, he raises them up and he puts them down, and then like a bunch of explosions go around his hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Xeno'jiiva did the same thing, but he would just put his hands into the ground and it would go in further. It would cause a tremor and then it would explode and pop you up. Both of them had the running attacks. Both of them have like one weird clunky tail move.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more, considering this is kind of like a weird amalgamation between all the different Fatalises, to get some more homages to them. I mean, for instance, I'm sure you know as well as I do, with Fatalis's fire sweeps.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very standard thing for him. You know, he can produce fireballs. Obviously, he has some kind of flame organ. Why couldn't he do the same thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just...
You could make the argument and be like, okay, well, he's juvenile. No?
I mean, yeah, but this is a synthetic creature at the same time. It comes out fully developed.
That's
another thing that was a big thing in the older gens with White Fatalis is he would do multiple layers of electricity. He would do, like with how Shia would only do the one little stripe, you'd have 3 in a vertical pattern and then 3 in a horizontal pattern back to back. So it made you gauge where you're at and then position differently right after.
You had to think more.
You had to think more in aspects of like that. So
the one lightning strip from Zoshia is kind of it's kind of lame.
I haven't ever been hit by it. So I mean, I'm not saying people who are newer hunters won't.
Mm-hmm.
But for your core audience who've been in the game for a while now, it's very lackluster.
The only times I ever got hit by it was when I actually got comboed and then I would get hit by it and then actually die. But it seemed like the frames on that lightning, unless you're just standing still, it doesn't seem like they're very active or very consistent. It feels weird. It feels janky almost. I'm not saying like the lightning needs to like track you, but there is something off there. I will say that.
Yeah, and the thing with how they did it in the other games is they would give you cues of on the ground of this isn't safe or this is safe. So you could have 3, 4, 5 stripes of electricity, and as long as you stayed between those stripes, you're good. Right. And that's when he would change it to the other axis, and then you'd have to readjust from that one. So, and again, this could just be veteran bias talking to me. But I really do hope he gets a very solid revamp to be more adjacent to what he's supposed to be.
Now, if they do a revamp, it's more than likely going to come in like an adult form.
And that's fine. Like I said, they can give him a 4th form and make him go full black tentacle creature.
Which I think everybody would enjoy to see that. How did you feel about Sapphire Jiva in World? How did you feel about that fight? Because it was a siege technically, and you got siege weapons from it.
I'm very indifferent about the sieges, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, it is interesting. I would just like to see more hunts with
more of a strategy to the fights, maybe?
I wouldn't even say strategy, but it's like almost like your outcome is not guaranteed even if you're playing almost perfectly. Like there was hunts in other games where it was just like you have to be on your shit the entire time. And it comes down to the last couple of minutes in a 50-minute fight.
Right.
That, I mean, yes, it's more grindy, but to me, it's more rewarding because it's not like, oh, I just did it. You know, it's like, no, we fucking did it.
Yeah.
The sense of teamwork in these later games just don't seem to be there because it's grown such a large audience. I mean, things that I've even just struggled with playing with randoms is, you know, people getting them, you know, you get a mount and then you're trying to get the wounds on the mount to do a bunch of big damage, and they'll do something to cause the monster to stagger,
Mm-hmm.
and then you lose them out, and you've lost all the potential damage that you were just about to earn.
Yeah.
People don't think in a team mindset a lot in this game. Like, someone could be dying, and they don't think to do a life powder or a dust of life, or I don't know. I would just like to see more things challenging to where you almost have to force that aspect of teamwork.
Okay, yeah. I agree with that. It would be nice to see a more well-rounded system of like, hey, because the game doesn't exactly introduce you to life pattern, be like, hey, use this to heal your friends whenever they get hit or something. But if I'm not mistaken, World had something similar to that, to be like, hey, whenever your friend is down, use a life powder or shoot at the targeted monster to dissuade them from, beating up your friend. I will say this. As far as fights go that felt like you were never guaranteed an outcome, I felt like that with Furious Regime. Constant. I felt that way with Raging Brachydios. I felt that way with Arc-Tempered all of the Arc-Tempered Elder Dragons, really. Especially Lunestra. Oh my gosh. And when you had to fight Teostra and Lunestra together, and they did like that dance in the air, that was really difficult. And I mean, Fatalis was a good moment of like, this is hard.
Fatalis in World, for me, as someone who's fought that beast through multiple generations, has probably been his most satisfying in recent history.
Okay, that's good to hear.
But I feel the exact opposite about Alatrion.
He was a gimmick.
He was never a gimmick in the other games. He was a monster that you just had to reckon with. And he was one of those monsters that you had to come down to the wire and hope you were playing your best to win against.
Yeah. I think my only problem with that fight, I would get to the point where, I'd be about to break his horns. And, you'd go through the process where he's like, oh, he's doing this big attack and it's constantly draining your health. You put all your health stuff on, you have to have like a mantle, vitality mantle, the vitality air freshener, I don't know what to call it, I forget. And you had to be drinking something too, right? So it's like, even if you did get to another phase of that, you wouldn't have like the vitality or the vitality air freshener to like help you out. So I would always feel like I got kind of cheated by that if I didn't break his horns immediately. Which hitting his horns and just that entire fight were just so hard.
Yeah, he's always been a pretty tough monster to break certain parts of because he stands so tall in retrospect to other monsters. And he doesn't give you many chances to actually hit them because he doesn't really do any low head swinging movements like Fatalis when he lays on his belly. Which is why I wish they would go back to almost how he was, where he just had a lot of moves that were hard and they hit hard and that were randomized. Like, yes, he can catch you slipping, but if you're just making sure you're paying attention and you're doing leaps of faith, then you'll be okay.
Let me ask you this. How many frenzied monsters have you fought in Wilds other than the required Yin Cut Coup?
None.
Because there's no point, right? There's no point.
But they don't spawn. And that's the thing. I mean, like, the spawn chance for them things, unless I'm just having to wait during a certain period or a certain time frame, I've hardly ever see them pop up on the map.
Yeah.
And again, even if they do pop up, what's the point? Frenzied monsters don't give anything that's worth it.
I do understand why they give the rarity 8 red parts to like the tempered apexes. And I know like, oh, it's a harder fight, material should be rare, but it's like you hardly see an apex tempered monster and you look at the rewards boxes and you barely see anything besides parts for the Ardian weapons either.
Which brings me to another point. I feel like they did the Arshan system entirely too early.
Yeah.
I mean, it really just kind of defeats the point of making any other weapon.
Right?
I mean, even with the latest weapons from Mitsitsune and Zoshia, I mean, I was looking at someone who was doing numbers, and the Arshan weapons were still considered the best. But you had a system in Rise that was already damn near perfect on how to boost whatever weapon you want.
Yeah.
Same exact process, but you just applied it to whatever you wanted by getting more of the rare materials from the afflicted monsters in order to make them better.
Those were almost harder. No, I would argue that those afflicted parts were harder to get than the parts for augmenting in World. They were very specific.
So I don't see why we went to this weapon, which locks you to a certain aesthetic, which, I mean, let's be real, fashion is always going to be one of the bigger parts of
Yes,
Monster Hunter.
especially late game.
And you're stuck with these weapons that, I'm not saying they look bad per se, but
They clash.
they clash with anything else that you're wearing if you're not wearing the Arshan armor to go with it.
Yeah, I agree. That's a honest take. It's a good take. Now, have you fought Mitsune yet?
Numerous times.
So in Wilds, I mean.
Yes,
Okay. Did you fight a tempered Mitsune?
I have not.
So, tempered monsters are supposed to have a higher damaging attack, and they're supposed to have a larger health pool. Am I right on that?
Maybe not on the attacks. I feel like the level of aggression is generally higher
Yeah.
for tempered monsters.
But they've always felt harder though.
Yeah, because they'll throw out more moves, and their frames compared to their non-tempers are generally faster. A good example of that is there's no difference between Gormagala and tempered Gormagala, but tempered Gormagala moves roughly 1.5 times faster than Gormagala.
He moves 10 times much more as base Gormagala in Wilds. But no other tempered monster feels like that. Mitsune doesn't feel like that. Mitsune feels like it hits harder, but I'm going to be honest, they still die just as quickly. There's no difference. But if I were to go back to World right now and fight a normal monster, we'll say Master Rank, versus a tempered monster in Master Rank, it's night and day. And even tempered from Art Tempered is still night and day. Mitsune from Rise is not Mitsune from Wilds. How do you feel about Rise Mitsune? From what you can remember. I know it's a lot asking to go back to this game, remember this monster, remember this fight.
I think it just depends on which variant we're talking about, because, I mean, regular was pretty non-confrontational for me, but his violet variant was
Insane, right?
very hard. I would say I wouldn't give him a in-game monster, but he's definitely high tier that could lead you up to in-game if you decided to make his stuff.
Absolutely. And I think I'll ask one more question. The time to kill on monsters in wilds for me is very noticeable. Have you noticed anything of a similar experience?
I would say that solo play for certain monsters, I feel like they definitely have lowered the HP pool altogether. And I feel like when you're playing in a team, I remember in other games, the threshold for HP would go up to account for the amount of players.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've almost done away with that completely.
Yeah.
Like it's just 1 HP bar, regardless of who's ever in there.
Right.
So if it took you 15 minutes solo, it's going to take you 5 when you're playing with anyone else because it has the same amount of HP as it did if you were playing by yourself.
And I mean, in World, we would have, what is it? Yabonkum Clutch Claw. We'd have Clutch Claw, and it would do like, 3,000 or 5,000 damage? And then everybody would jump on the monster. I mean, and it still felt like the fights would take a base amount of time of like 30 minutes. The only fight I know to date with Wilds that takes 30 minutes by myself is Shia. That is the only one.
I'd agree with that.
That's it.
Everything else, generally, even not using an optimal weapon against them, maybe 15.
Yeah, maybe. Except for Timber Gormagal, I just get flatlined. I'll get flatlined, like absolutely. It's either I kill him or he kills me. That's it.
I don't know. I just feel like the scaling of monsters doesn't feel appropriate right now.
No, not at all.
Things that you would want and expect to hit harder become very cushy whenever you just get a decent set of armor and you've leveled it up a few times. All the apexes, aside from maybe Arkveld, are almost comical when you have decent gear for them. The first time fighting them without having any gear, they might catch you off guard a little bit if you're a veteran.
Yeah.
And also just learning pattern recognition. But outside of that, there's nothing that's just like, wow, it got me. Or it can continuously bombard me with things where it's like, man, I really need to pay really close attention to what he's doing. A good example of a monster that does do that is Raging Brachydios. He will lock you into place, have you on the floor, and keep hitting you even when you're on the floor.
And then he does that. He has that one attack where it's like a lunge. He'll hit you, you'll explode, you'll roll, you'll go to get up, and he has that lunge move where he goes just over you,
and you have to roll
kill you
perfectly in order to get out of it,
or you're dead. It is literally a life or death combo. Yeah, I remember that.
So, and again, maybe that's just a veteran aspect of me talking, but I honestly, to end out this conversation, I do feel like they are heavily catering to casuals. On one end, I'm happy that there's more people that's in this game, but I feel like they're losing a lot of the nuance that made Monster Hunter what Monster Hunter is.
They are, I agree. I will say this as my closing statement. A big part that is missing from this game are the Elder Dragons. I feel it. That's what really gave us the challenge, were Elder Dragons in high rank.
Well, if they're not going to put Elder Dragons in the game right now, then they need to have something that's worth fighting to where it can make up for the Elder Dragons.
Well, we have like a couple days and Arc Tempered Raydao is going to come out, so we're going to see how he...
Well, he better come out swinging.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Well, thank you for giving me your time. I hope you all got something out of this conversation. God bless and happy hunting.